The countdown until the US elections is 8 days and 10 hours as we speak. The presidential race rests on a razor's edge. Welcome to New Wave Global. You are watching Unraveled, and I'm your host, Marvi Sirmed. Our focus today is a nuanced view of the presidential race with a South Asian lens. According to the final nationwide polls conducted by SSRS and reported by CNN, 47% of likely voters support Vice President Kamala Harris, and an equal 47% support former President Donald Trump. Looking at the South Asian diaspora, the opinion is as divided as it could be. Lotus for POTUS, a powerful group composed of mainly Indian Americans, is leaning towards Vice President Kamala Harris, while PakPac, a public affairs committee of Pakistani Americans, has endorsed former President Trump. Meanwhile, in contravention of the decades-old practice, the LA Times and the Washington Post, as you must have heard by now, have announced not to endorse any candidate, a decision severely criticized by many commentators. In fact, Margaret Sullivan of The Guardian, she has wrote yesterday, and I quote, "There is no way to see this decision other than as an appalling display of cowardice and dereliction of their public duty." Is this really a display of cowardice or upholding the principle of political neutrality in journalism? Why is South Asian diaspora so much divided in making a decision about who occupies the White House? We will focus our today's discussion on these two questions, and I'm joined by two distinguished guests, Mr. Imran Sharief, who is the secretary of, who's a medical professional and the secretary of PakPac. He has joined us from California. Thank you, Dr. Imran. And my second guest is Raza Ahmed Rumi, who is a senior journalist of Pakistani descent. He has joined us from New York. Thank you, Raza. He is also our chief editor of New Wave Global. Welcome, both of you, gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Marvi.
So
thank you, Marvi, for the invitation.
I'm really, it's very kind of you to join. Dr. Sharief, I will start with you. What would you say? We will start from the endorsements first. So PakPac has endorsed Donald Trump. Is there any, was this unanimous, or there was any divide within the Pakistani community? Can you speak a bit about that?
I think it's a really important question for Pakistani American community, Pakistani diaspora, and the for this US election 2024. It was a very difficult decision which candidate to choose. So we have been discussing having multiple Zoom meetings with both campaigns. We met with President Donald Trump's campaign, their chief of staff, Ambassador Grinnell, and then also at the same time, Kamala's Vice President Kamala Harris campaign. And there were a number of issues which were brought up that I think most of us are aware of. One is about current situation in Middle East, which is a really big issue for Muslims. And then obviously things in Pakistan. Support of current U.S. government and support of past U.S. government for Pakistan has been somewhat a little bit different. In the past, Pakistan got a lot of support from U.S. Right now, I think a little bit less, I would say, with respect to aid, flooding, and other issues which have happened. U.S. have not supported Pakistan to that extent, which they've done in the past. So keeping that in mind, we didn't get a positive response or positive encouragement from Kamala's campaign. So we kept asking for a number of things in regards to all these issues, wars, Pakistan, and getting more Pakistani diaspora involved in the current politics in Washington, D.C., which is bringing them in the White House, State Department and getting them to a position where we have more engagement with the current politics and current issues. At the same time, the President Trump's campaign and the Governor Garnell, who also lives in California and Los Angeles. So he was very positive, his team was very positive, and they continue to encourage us again and again. Yes, they will work with war issues in Ukraine, in Middle East, bring Pakistan closer to us, and work with issues locally, what's happening in Pakistan. And so with that reinforcement from Trump campaign, we elected to endorse President Trump. At the same time, if you recall from yesterday evening, Muslims in Michigan and Arab Americans have also endorsed President Trump. So that's a big thing because in Michigan, the polls were 47 and 47. And this with this edge, I think President Trump has an upper hand.
Okay, so that's an interesting view, because as I understand, your initial decision was dictated by how both the personalities, both the candidates, if they are in White House, how they will be for Pakistan. So most of the decision was dictated by this consideration, and some of it was because what their policies towards war in Ukraine or war in the Middle East has been or would be. That's an interesting perspective. And also, you talked about the Muslims in Michigan. Raza, I'll come back to you, Dr. Sharif, but let me go to Raza for a bit. Raza, what do you think? Does it? I mean, Dr. Sharif has talked about Muslims. You know, and the Muslims are not monolith. Muslims have there are many Muslims who in the USA who are against Trump, who have been traditionally against Trump administration for various reasons. What do you think? And then we have Tulip for Lotus for POTUS, which is and Indian diaspora has many Muslims as well. So what do you
Yes.
think about this dichotomy?
No, thank you, Marvi. I think what this election shows and the polls that have been showing is that it's a very deeply polarized political sort of society.
Hmm.
I mean, the popular vote is split right in the middle. There
Yeah.
are, I mean, President Trump, former president, has a big support base, the MAGA movement that he has
Yeah.
led. And then you have all the other important sort of communities and groups within American society that
Hmm.
are backing the Democrats. You know, there's some of the unions and some members from the people of the color, and also the traditional Democratic Party's base.
Hmm.
Republicans, Donald Trump has actually revived the Republican Party because their numbers were constantly going down. So in 2016 and 2020, and that's why he's a nominee again of the party,
Hmm.
because he's the best hope for them to come to take the White House. But about the Muslims issue, I think there is a genuine sort of anger and outrage at the policies of President Biden,
Hmm.
especially in Gaza, and the way they have been insensitive and continue to be insensitive to the people there who have been bombarded, and we know that
Hmm.
officially 41,000 people are dead, and still the US is supplying arms to Israel. So I think that's one of the reasons. And you saw last night, many Muslims in Michigan were endorsing President Trump for the election. But then there are other groups within the Muslims who say, well, Trump has issues with Muslims. He's Islamophobic. He imposed a Muslim ban. He even talked about a Muslim ban again. So
Hmm.
they oppose him on that ground. They say that he's going to do that again, and how can we support a Muslim hating ban for the ostensible protection of Muslims in Palestine? So there's a contradictory sort of argument. So I think Muslims are also split, And also, as you mentioned, Indians are also split. I mean, there's a big group that supports Kamala Harris, but many
Yeah,
of the NRIs, non-resident Indians who are, very loyal to Modi, they think that President Trump
yeah,
and Modi are best friends and that
that's
they have the similar policies towards Muslims. So, Islamophobia also plays a role there. So, the South Asian community, like the rest of American society, seems to be equally divided in the middle.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
that's why this is a very interesting race, but it's also a very, very close, nail-biting race. And
Yeah.
let's see what happens in the next 8 to 10 days, as you mentioned.
Next 8 days, absolutely. And that's a very interesting, point you brought, that most of the supporters of Prime Minister Modi are also the supporter of Mr. Trump, former President Trump. Uh, I can say with a level of certainty that most of the supporters of former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan are also the supporter of former President Trump. But going back to Mr. Dr. Sharif, Dr. Saab, the the point, your point about why PakPac and why most Pakistani Americans would support former President Trump might also be because of the policy of the in the Middle East. But we also know that when Donald Trump was president, we saw that the America almost endorsed, not almost, actually endorsed Israel by, starting the embassy in Jerusalem, which has been a polarizing issue for a long time. And also, Abrahamic Accords were started by former President Trump, by which many Muslim countries, including the Middle East and including Pakistan as well, were pressurized to accept Israel, which Pakistan did not. And at that time, former Prime Minister Imran Khan was in power. What do you say about that?
I think you brought a really good point. Those issues were very sensitive for Muslims, Pakistani Americans, and obviously this happened in 2016 to 2020. Now we are in 2024 and moving forward. So as you know, I mean, politics, things do change, their mindset do change, their thought process do change. So with our interaction with the former president and his team, it looks like they're willing to work with the Pakistani American community. They're willing to work with Muslims about all these issues, and their thought process and their line of action is going to be a little bit different than what it was in 2016. As the was mentioned earlier, this election is extremely close, and it's like a razor edge. And I think most of the states are pretty much neck and neck, 48%, and there are 2% undecided voters, and those undecided voters now are very important, which are mostly Middle Eastern, Arabs, Pakistani American diaspora, and I think the other thing you brought it up is Imran Khan supporters. So a lot of former President Imran Khan supporters are leaning towards Trump, and they are also endorsing Trump. So Pakistani diaspora is thinking in the direction of Trump, or they may go undecided, which will be some of them have mentioned about Green Party. Green Party will not create a major damage to anyone. It's just going to take away some of the vote and it's going to make the race very close. So that's what my take is.
Okay, that's also very interesting. I'll go to Raza once again. Raza, the question that in my introduction I pointed to about journalism now. So in Pakistan, because most of my life I have been, and you, both of us have been practicing our journalism, was in Pakistan. And back in Pakistan, we are always told that upholding journalistic principles, the highest principles, also means being politically neutral. And this has been, a main focus of the debate as we have seen over the past decades, deterioration in journalism, steeper than any other times. And we used to be told by the old school journalists that political objectivity, uh, as opposed to neutrality, was the basic principle. But over the time, it became the objectivity was started to be mistaken with neutrality. Now we see this debate in USA as well, where two of the major publications have refused to endorse any candidate. And their point is, for example, LA Times. I was reading the LA Times editor's note, and that note says that they cannot endorse Trump because of his fascist tendencies,
Ah,
but they cannot endorse Kamala Harris as well because of the terrible, terrible policy in the Middle East and what is happening in Gaza, and how US is becoming part of that, those war crimes being committed in Gaza. So the other side says this has to be this has to be cowardice. If you don't take a side, you are committing dereliction of your public duty. What do you say about this? I mean, these are two very, very opposing, conflicting point of views about the quality and the state of journalism.
yes, Marvi, this has been a big issue in the last few days with Washington Post's owner refusing and telling his staff to not endorse Kamala Harris, while the staff and the editors wanted to do that. Now, there is a tradition in the United States where newspapers have been backing and endorsing presidential candidates. Even though they may be the reporters and the editors ostensibly are free to report in a way, but the paper takes a stand. But this time, Jeff Bezos and many other billionaires or billionaire owners of media are hesitant to.
Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos.
Exactly, Jeff Bezos. And I think one of the reasons is that they're also kind of scared because President Trump has time and again said that he'll fix people. He will have some kind of, all the, because, this media has been very critical of him
Hmm.
throughout, even when he became the president the first time, all 4 years, and then later. And Trump holds them responsible for that. So, in a way, these really powerful businessmen are trying to protect their interests as well, just in case if he becomes the president, they don't want to be on the wrong side, on his wrong side. And you have Elon Musk, the owner of X now, who is openly campaigning for him day in and day out. All the Twitter, or now known as X, algorithms are sort of designed in favor of President Trump's campaign, and all the kind of information or disinformation his opponents say has to go out to the voters. So I think there's a big problem there. I mean, overall, I would say that the media bias is very clear. And in this particular situation, the idea of political objectivity does not really hold ground, because you see what happens with the, as you know, even in Pakistan, what happens in politics is, and with many politicians, is that they just outrightly lie and make up stories. Now, about President Trump, one of the big problems that the media have been saying is that his depiction of the migrants. Now, all three of us here in this discussion are migrants at different stages. Dr. Saab came much earlier than us. I came, and then you came. And
Hmm.
the thing is that, Trump has been calling them names, saying that there's an invasion of America going on, that they are thugs and they're murderers, and they are they are going to eat your cats and dogs. That's a big alarm for white people who love their pets. So, he said that in Springfield, that this was happening. Of course, it was not true. So then the question is, should the media be reporting like that people in Springfield are eating cats and dogs, or should they fact check? right? So that's where the problem comes in as well. So I think that's the larger issue, but I think it's not limited to America, Marvi. If you look at the world at the moment, if you look at India, the world's biggest, most populous country, where also you have politicians have created this whole disinformation network. You take Pakistan, where social media to some extent plays that role. You take Brazil, etc., etc. This is I mean, the US, because it's an advanced country, owns or at least all that big tech is located here. That's why we feel it here and we see it more here intensely, and that's why there's this big fight going on within journalism as well. And truly, like the rest of the society, media is also deeply polarized. You can tell, if you
Yeah,
look at Fox News, that what they're going to
it
say.
has been for a
CNN,
while.
yeah,
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 you're
that's
right.
the thing.
We covered 2020 elections as well, and you could see, like in Pakistan, it was ARY and Geo. Here, it was, you can
Fox,
see the camps.
yeah.
Anyway, going back to Dr. Sharif, my last round of questions. Um, do you think most of it, much of it might be because Kamala Harris is a woman and America might not be ready for a woman president as yet, and that too a Black woman president?
I don't think and I would not agree with that statement. I think America is ready for a woman president because even when Hillary was running, I think there was she got the most popular vote even in 2016, but she lost because of other reason, and the president Trump became the president, and that was unexpected. Actually, I mean, when I was watching the results in 2016, every single results came coming up, and I was just holding my head and saying, "What has happened, and how did this happen?" So I think if Kamala Harris uh, think a little bit differently, first of all, let me go back. It's, initially, it was Trump and President Biden, and Kamala was not even in the picture. And then she got into the picture, so she didn't have enough time. The second thing which goes against Kamala is she has been in cabinet for 3 years. So there's issues with wars, there's issues with the border security, there's issues with the immigration. And with her, she has not been able to produce or come up with any solutions or good results. So that's number two. Number three means when you talk to her or when you listen to her, she keep coming up with that we will fix it, we will fix it, we will fix it, but there's no roadmap to fix it. You got to have A, B, C, D, E to reach to F. So I mean, you cannot just fix by just making a statement. So there has to be a plan that how she's going to fix the border. There's illegal immigrant which keep crossing the border. That's a big issue on us, which is U.S. citizen, our tax dollars, and our economy. Jobs are taken away from locals, and it's given to cheaper labor or people who are crossing by foot. So that's one major problem. And then the other is war. During the President Trump's time, there were no wars for 4 years, but now we are going wars after wars after war. And as you see, there's escalation happening. Iran is involved, Lebanon is involved. Unfortunately, so many people have died in Lebanon, and 41,000, I think it's more than 42,000 in the Middle East. So all those things, and Kamala has no answers. And I think we are ready for a woman president, but I think I have a feeling that she may not be ready yet. I think she still have to work, and maybe down the road in future, another 4 years or 8 years, she may be ready.
Okay, but Dr. Sharif, it really um, puts a big question mark when I see so many South Asians, especially South Asian Muslims, um, supporting former President Trump, considering how terrible things he has said about women, about immigrants, even about Muslims. Uh, how, how does that add up?
Well, I mean, excellent point.
Doesn't
It's
that
all
bother Muslims when such things are said about women?
I think that's an excellent point, and this is what we have been debating. That's why we've been going back and forth. That's why we kept meeting Kamala's team. We kept meeting again and again and again just to get a roadmap and try to resolve all these issues. Obviously, all these things happened with President Trump. That was previous 2016 to 2020. But now we are hoping that with these negotiations, with all these interaction, with all these uh, acknowledgement from his team that these things will change. Means this Muslim ban, we talked about their team and we were reassured that that was, means according to them, that was not an issue before. It was misperceived by media and it's not going to happen. And then the same issue with the woman, same issue with the Islamophobia, same issue with the war. So we have been talking to them and we have been getting positive reinforcement. So now this is a different era, different person, different team. So we are hoping that things will change. And one other thing I would ask both of you this question. So you have two candidates. You don't have a third candidate. You have got Jill Stein, but she may get 1% vote. But do we have a third option? So we have to figure out a way to work with the best case scenario. And I think that is the best case scenario at this time as President Trump. Looks like it.
Before I go to Raza, I just, Dr. Sharif, just explore this point, what you have said about there was internal discussion and, the community, the PakPac members and, people went back and forth before making this decision of endorsing former President Trump. I I just it just popped in my mind because PakPac has been in touch with both Democrats and Republicans for those the resolutions and the letters that they signed for the former Prime Minister Imran Khan. And PakPac had success with both Democrats and Republicans. Democrats also signed, Democrats also voted. This was actually in a long time. This was the first resolution that was that was voted with bipartisan vote with such a success. So, which means that you were making headway with both, not just Republicans.
I mean, that's a good point that you brought it up. So obviously we didn't talk about that. We didn't brought up during our discussion, but we support both as a Pakistani American, as an organization, we support both Democrat and Republican. So in California, I mean, so I have half of my friends which are Republican Congress representative or the senator, and half are Congress representatives. So, as I give you an example, a few days ago, I hosted a reception for my dear friend, State Senator Josh Newman. He's a Democrat. Prior to that, 10 days ago, we hosted a reception for Congresswoman Young Kim, Congresswoman Michelle Steele. They both are Republican. 3 weeks ago, I've been talking to Congresswoman Lou Correa and Linda Sanchez and a few other Congress representatives. They're all Democrats. We are hosting reception for them, and we've been going back and forth. So we are supporting.
And you had a meeting with Lieutenant Governor as well. I was looking
yes,
at the,
yes. So means presidential campaign is a little bit different, but at the level of Senate and Congress, we are supporting candidates who work with our community, who understand our philosophy, who understand our thought process, and who understand who we are. So it's not we just leaning towards Democrat or leaning toward Republican. We're supporting both parties at Congress and Senate level, but at the presidential level, we are more focused towards President Trump.
Okay, that makes sense. And Raza, now, what do you think? I mean, actually, there's one more question that I would like to ask Dr. Sharif, but I'll
ask him.
come back to you, Dr. Sharif. But just give me a minute with Raza. What do you think, Raza? How it is going to go about from now on? We are on the razor edge. What do you see?
So I think, Marvi, the real challenge here is that despite the polls, it is very, very unclear as to what happens on, the day of the election. But,
Mm.
Kamala Harris has some kind of an edge with a lot of women voters. The real test
Yeah.
would be how many white women will vote for her. In the past, white women have voted for Trump for I don't know what is the real reason there, but this
Yeah.
time because of the reversal of the abortion laws by the Supreme Court and the Republican Party's stance, there may be a cut in many white women voters. Second is that the Latino votes, which are also sizable in certain states, are also split, and it remains to be seen. So, among them, the Cubans generally support Republicans. The
Mm.
others from Central America, etc., they support the Democrats.
Okay.
So, these are the two key, what you call variables. And then the third important part will be the actual voter turnout. As you know,
Mm.
always that matters. Whether
Mm.
people, Democratic Party is able to mobilize people or not. See, the MAGA supporters will go and vote for Trump. They are charged. They want to make America great again, and they won't sit back. But a lot of armchair liberals and Democrats, sometimes they say a lot, but they don't go out to vote. They sit at home and they don't go, especially the young people. So all of these variables will occur, and it wouldn't be surprising if Kamala Harris actually wins. But for now, we cannot make a prediction.
Yeah, that's right. Um, and actually, a while ago, I was interviewing a Republican, a Muslim Republican, and I asked him, well, why was he supporting, what does, how does he predict? And he gave a very funny answer. He he says that Allah is going to help Republicans because they do not support gays. So anyway, we Dr. Sharif, coming to you, and this is promises my last question. I wanted to ask you the same question as I asked Raza. What is going to, what, how do you see things happening from now on? Plus, how do you see whosoever comes to the White House? For example, you have endorsed former President Trump. If he comes to the White House, how do you see, what big thing do you hope happening vis-a-vis South Asia, especially Pakistan?
Really good question. And in order to answer this question, I think Raza can endorse me. Probably it will take half an hour to an hour to answer that question. It's such a tricky and a difficult and a lengthy answer because there are all different scenarios which can happen, right? Uh, Regarding the election, first of all, the first part of your question, I think it's anybody's game, and I think it could be Trump, it could be Kamala. I mean, I think let me start with Kamala. I mean, Kamala has another whatever number of days left, 9, 10, or 11. So I haven't counted it. So if she focus with some kind of a plan, and she focused on certain group, and she continued to work on the battleground states, she has a good chance. So that's one thing. President Trump, I mean, I think he's just doing his thing. I think he's going to keep doing his thing the same way that he does it on media or on his reality show. So I think he's really good in doing it. So I mean, with his endorsement yesterday about Arab American and Michigan, I think Michigan he's going to win Michigan. Looks like it. Now you're left with Pennsylvania, you're left with Georgia, you're left with Nevada, you're left with Arizona. So you've got few battleground states still left. I think Pennsylvania is anybody's game. Arizona may lean towards President Trump, and the reason is Hispanic vote. Hispanics, if you talk to any regular Hispanic on the street, they will tell you they're going to vote for Trump. And a lot of people, whether it's male or female, they are leaning towards Trump. I don't have a good explanation, but that's how it is. And as you've heard in the media, that the Black Americans are voting for Trump, and now Kamala is moving towards that direction, trying to get that Black American vote. So this is what I think the election looks like, and I think it may end up going to court. very possible. I think that's a
Oh.
very possible scenario that the election results will end up going into the court, and then court will decide who's going to be the winner, and then we will see who will accept, who will not accept, right? So then what will we
Little
accept?
replication of Pakistan's politics here.
Politics is politics. Politics is same, right? Whether it's in Pakistan, America, India, Brazil, or wherever you name it. The second thing is, what are we going to gain from these elections? And I think obviously we want a better relation between US and Pakistan. That's our one of the most important goals. We want a better future for our second and third generation in America, so that there's no racial discrimination. There's no discrimination between the color. There's no discrimination between male and female, and they're equally treated. So that's number two. Then number three, we want more representation of Pakistani American in the White House, in the State Department. And I think if that will happen, things will automatically change. But if you don't have any Pakistani American in the White House, and then I go and come up with some issues, who's going to address it and who's going to understand it? Just to give you an example, the person that we have been communicating with, Kamala's campaign, she's dealing with the Pakistani diaspora, but her background is from a different country, and she has spent like 2 or 3 years in Pakistan. How can she understand? You need someone like me, you, or Raza to be there in that campaign, sitting and listening to all 300,000 or all million Pakistani American diaspora, and understand what are they trying to convey, and then come up with a plan.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to leave it there. It was a very enriching discussion. Thank you very much for both of you for being here. I thank you, our viewers. Please subscribe to our channel, because we heavily depend on your support. We are an independent media organization. Thank you very much. Good night.